Hi students, how are you all? I am Dr. Bharata. I just come here to tell you about status of guidance and counseling in present day situation. Counseling, it has all the requirements for daily life very reasonably for quite some time, because from its inception the counseling is doing a lot for the individual and also for the family members to come away from the stretch situation. In order to be free from the stress and also to live happily, peacefully, and to do the daily work without any problems and disruptions. And hence, it is important to learn about the status of guidance and counseling. By learning this status and counseling, the objectives of this lesson helps the students to acquire knowledge about counseling and its history, understand the work in the past, present and future. Counseling, how it came? Counseling came into existence from anthropology, education, ethics, history, law, medical sciences, philosophy, psychology and sociology. In the educational institutions, the word guidance is equated with counseling because of similarity in the function. Definition of counseling: the process of helping people to come away from difficulties is called counseling. But the word counselor was misused in companies when people talk to promote products as salesperson, advice givers or supervisors of children or services. The progressive guidance movement of the early 90s lead to a path to the counseling as profession. The function of counseling is helping individuals of all ages and stages avoid making bad choices in life while finding meaning, direction and fulfillment in what they did. Today, professional counseling encompasses within its practice clinicians who still focus on the avoidance of problems and the promotion of growth. But the profession is much more than that. The focus on wellness, development, mindfulness, meaningfulness and remediation of mental disorders is the hallmark of counseling for individuals, groups, couples and families across the lifespan. To understand the present day context of counseling, it is important first to understand the history of the profession and how counseling is similar to and different from concepts such as guidance and psychotherapy. In 2010, 29 counseling associations, including the American Counseling Association ACA and the American Association of State Counseling Boards, accepted a consensus definition of counseling. According to the 2020 A Vision for the Future of Counseling group, counseling is defined as follows: a process that empowers diverse individuals, families and groups to accomplish mental health, wellness, education and career goals is known as counseling. What are the importance of counseling? According to counselors, the importance of this field are good health, growth, work, education and empowerment concerns. These areas include concerns related to find meaning, adjustment and fulfillment in achievement of goals in such settings as work and school. Counselors are concerned with social justice and advocate for the oppressed and powerless as a part of the process. It is apt to conduct with persons at all levels. Patients and clients seen by counselors live and work in a wide variety of settings. Their problems may require short-term or long-term interventions that focus on just one person or with multiple individuals who are related or not related to each other. Clients come from heterogeneous group in terms of minority, majority and multicultural groups who require the help. Societal issues such as discrimination or prejudice require guidance depending on their needs. The dynamic process of counseling comes through using a variety of theories and methods. Thus, it involves making choices as well as changes, lively and engaging. Counseling helps in action either internally with thoughts and feelings or externally with behavior. The professional counselors must first meet the requirements for the general practice of professional counseling. Inception of counseling. When it started, counseling was not popular during late 90s, but restarted to work for problems of the human being. Population explosion and general education influenced the growth of the counseling career. There was a great change which caused a major shift to individuals assessed themselves and others. It was a socially challenging period, so counselors started working as teachers and social reformers. During 1900s, 3 persons emerged as leaders in counseling development: Frank Parsons, J.C.B. Davis and Clifford Beers. Parsons, often called the founder of guidance, focused his work on growth and prevention. Parsons' body of work and his efforts to help others that represents present-day counseling. He theorized that choosing a vocation was a matter of relating 3 factors: a knowledge of work, a knowledge of self, and matching of the two through true reasoning. Thus, Parsons devised a number of procedures related to the work and the clients. A systematized guidance program in the public schools was set up by J.C.B. Davis. He suggested that classroom teachers of English composition teach their students a lesson in guidance once a week to accomplish the goal of building character and preventing problems. The progressive educators advocated school guidance, which is a forerunner of counseling. Mental health counseling came from the students' work as a means of helping people adjust to themselves and society, which was related with the fields of psychiatry and psychology. Complementing the funding of NVGA was congressional passage of the Smith-Hughes Act of 1917. This legislation provided funding for public schools to support vocational education. The development of the first standards for the preparation and the evaluation of occupational materials was another turning point. Throughout the decade of 1920s, counselors were broadening their focus to include issues of personality and development, those concerned to the family. During 1930s, the Great Depression influenced researchers and practitioners, especially in university and vocational settings, to emphasize helping strategies and counseling methods that related to employment. A highlight of the first theory of counseling by E.G. Williams at the University of Minnesota. His emphasis on a direct counselor-centered approach came to be known by several names, for example, as the Minnesota point of view and trait factor counseling. His pragmatic approach emphasized the counselor's teaching, mentoring, and influencing skills, aptitudes, interests, personal, and achievements that could be integrated in a variety of ways to form individual characteristics. Counseling was based on a scientific problem solving empirical method that was individually tailored to each client to help him or her stop non-productive thinking behavior and become an effective decision maker. The task of the counselor was to ascertain a deficiency in the client, such as a lack of knowledge or a skill, and then to prescribe a procedure to rectify the problem. Another major occurrence was the broadening of counseling beyond occupational concerns. Edward Thorndike began to challenge the vocational orientation of the guidance movement. As a counselor, every teacher to incorporate guidance into the school curriculum as a subject. All education should focus on preparing students to live outside the school environments was the opinion of the educationist. Evolving from this measure was the creation of the state supervisors of guidance position in state departments of education throughout the nation. Thus, school counseling, still known as guidance in the 1930s, became more of a national phenomenon. The theory of Carl Rogers, World War II, and government's involvement in counseling were the three major events shaped the practice of counseling. The client was espousing a non-directive approach to counseling was emphasized. It gave the importance of the relationship in counseling technique, selection and training of future counselors, and the goals and objectives of counseling. In order to select and train specialists for the military, the US government required counselors and psychologists to help. After the war, the US government further promoted counseling, which provided vocational education funds through the US Office of Education for Counselor Trainers Institute. In addition, the Veterans Institutions Administration funded the training of counselors and psychologists by granting for students engaged internship study. The decade 1950s produced 5 major events that dramatically changed the previous status of counseling, such as the establishment of the American Personnel and Guidance Association, the charting of the American School Counselor Association, the establishment of Provision 17, that is Society of Counseling Psychology, within the American Psychological Association APA, the passage of the National Defense Education Act NDEA, the introduction of new guidance and counseling theories. During 1960s, counseling was turned into a developmental profession. The emphasis of counseling shifted from a one-on-one encounter to small group interaction. Behavioral counseling grew in importance with the appearance of revolution in counseling in 1996, in which learning was promoted as the root of change. Establishments of mental health centers was another noteworthy occurrence during 1960s. Alcohol abuse counseling and addiction counseling, marriage and family counseling also emerged in such centers. Emergence of several trends that were influenced by actions apart from and within counseling circles. New initiatives such as working with women, minorities, and people with disabilities, affirmative action, and legislation for disabled persons. Among the most noteworthy events of the decade 1980s were those that standardized the training and counseling as a distinct profession, increased the diversification of counselor specialties, and emphasized human growth and development. A second way that human growth and development stressed was through increased attention to gender issues and sexual preferences, which helped counseling arena. An emphasis on moral development was the third way in which human growth issues were highlighted. Finally, the Association for Multicultural Counseling and Development took the lead regarding the challenges of working with different ethnic and cultural groups. During 1990s, changes in the evolution of the counseling profession took place. One significant change was to modify its name from AACD, American Association for Counseling Development, to the American Counseling Association, ACA. A second noteworthy event was counseling as a primary mental health profession included in the healthcare, human resource statistics, psychology, social work, and psychiatrists recognized counseling on par with other mental health specialties. 21st century, the status. What is the status? Counseling formally celebrated its 50th anniversary as a profession under the umbrella of ACA in 2002. Within the celebration was a realization of changing certain topics, issues, and concerns. Among the most pressing topics were dealing with violence, trauma, and crisis, managed care, wellness, social justice, technology, leadership, and identity. What is the guidance movement in India? In our country, guidance movement was an organized professional activity in more than 4 decades. While in America, the guidance movement started as an attempt to fulfill the practical needs of the employers and teachers, but in India it began as an academic discipline. Calcutta University enjoys the privilege of being the first Indian university to introduce guidance as a section of its Department of Applied Psychology in 1938. Guidance movement received another push forward when trustees of the Parsi Panchayat funds and properties in Bombay decided to establish in Bombay Services Bureau. The Bureau also started publishing the Journal of Educational and Vocational Guidance, which provided the guidance workers with a professional organ of communication and interchange of ideas and information regarding research and practice in the field. Then Government of Uttar Pradesh gave official recognition to the movement by setting up a Bureau of Psychology at Allahabad in 1947. Scope of guidance. Why should we have the guidance? At present, a Student Advisory Bureau under the Ministry of Education and a University Employment Information and Guidance Bureau under the National Employment Service together impart educational and vocational information as well as guidance to students. However, the function of this bureau is not proper because of lack of both direction and coordination. Of course, as already pointed out, various universities and colleges have also set up guidance centers, counseling cells, and career advising units. However, these two are either deficient in trained workers or there is a lack of sense of commitment among liaison officers, as also insufficient patronage and support from the administration. A program that covers vocational, educational, as well as all other important and desirable aspects of guidance in its entire spread, including help to solve the students, was not available. Some universities do have the post of a student counselor, yet most of these counselors are kept busy with odd jobs assigned to them by the concerned authorities, all because the expression guidance and counseling has yet to be comprehensively understood, and as a consequence these student counselors just do not get to do what they have been appointed for, function as to do because of a misunderstanding of the nature of their job function. No national organization exists to effectively handle the entire guidance and counseling program. The central government does have its ministries of education and of labor and employment, as well as the University Grants Commission and the National Council of Educational Research and Training look after the issue of guidance and counseling. But these four arms of the government are often signing different, and so in effect appear to be working at cross purposes. Of course, the NCERT is imparting training at its 4 regional centers to fresh as well as sponsored candidates. However, the intake of trainees is limited, so that all 4 centers, even it put together, cannot satisfy the nation's entire demand. Moreover, there is a lack of coordination even among these 4 centers. Further, still, the concept of guidance in colleges and universities has narrowed down to one aspect of guidance only, that is vocational guidance. This is quite unfortunate. There is no clear-cut national policy in this regard. There is also lack of direction and coordination. There is neither any supervision and planning, nor is there administrative support, nor are there any finances. Students as well as parents have today understood the importance and need of guidance. Therefore, the demand for guidance workers is increasing day by day in schools. Also, it does not surprise if private organizations have started working in this area too. The credit for establishing the first full-time counseling service for college students goes to the MS University Baroda. In 1958, at the invitation of the University Grants Commission, the University of Baroda prepared a plan of counseling center with full-time staff to cater to the needs of its students. The plan included practical service to students with the educational and vocational problems, research related to guidance and counseling, and training of guidance personnel. The plan was approved by University Grants Commission, and the Student Counseling Center of the university was set up in 1959. This center did following commendable works: conducted a study of student problems and developed an adjustment inventory on the basis of the study, published a series of pamphlets devoted to typical case studies, prepared some measuring tools like family attitude test for use with children and young adolescents, the Gujarati version of Wechsler's adult intelligence scale, abstract reasoning test, selection test for the faculty of engineering, prepared a handbook for developing guidance and counseling for the in-service school teachers, and organized some seminars for teachers in small towns and villages. The center became well known in India. Therefore, some consultants from USA visited the center and often helped in its organization development. 1961, Allahabad University also organized a counseling center for its students with the assistance of the United States Educational Foundation in India. From 1961-65, the foundation placed one exchange professor either on full-time basis or to be shared between the departments of education and psychology with a specific assignment to help developing a student counseling center. Now I am going to conclude. We understood the need and the pressure today the institutions, individuals and families have for the requirements of the counseling centers and guidance centers. Hence, it is very necessary that in each education institutions, vocational centers, guidance and counseling should be given importance for the welfare of the individual family members and institutions.